Hi, this is Raju here. I am the business analyst trainer. I would be taking this session today. So today's session, I just wanted to spend some time explaining what is the role of a business analyst and what would we learn in this as part of this course. Right. So that's the agenda. Apart from that, if you have any questions, I think we can take it up. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to cover. Right. Right. So I hope you're able to see my screen. Right. So just let me know in case you don't. So this slide, what you're seeing, crisply summarizes what a business analyst does. Right. Now, before getting into the details about what a business analyst does, we need to understand that there is an international organization called IIBA, stands for International Institute of Business Analysis. So they are the ones who offer the certification, CBAP, Certified Business Analyst Professional. Right now, see, it's a non-profit organization which oversees this profession of a business analyst. Right? So they have classified the role of a business analyst into these 6 knowledge areas. So a business analyst needs to know about these 6 different types of areas, and you'll be able to perform the role of a business analyst if you understand these. So what I've done is I've aligned the course to that, but the focus is not to take the certification. Focus is to onboard people who are coming from different backgrounds into a business analyst role. Right. So I'm not looking at clearing the certification now. So this course is for people who don't understand anything about a business analyst into this role or this course. Right. I'll talk about that later. But let's first spend some time understanding what a business analyst does. Right. Now, from a activity point of view, a significant part of your time would be spent on these 2. Right. So first step, you would engage with the customers or the SMEs, subject matter experts. Right. So people who understand the requirement. You will interact with them and understand the requirement. Okay. So there are various ways in which you can do that. It's not just going and having a one-on-one discussion. Right. In fact, there are 10 ways in which IIBA says that you can engage the SME to understand the requirements. So we'll learn those techniques. Then, once you understand the requirements, the next logical step is you have to document it in a way such that the technical team can understand. Right. So you are the guy who's a bridge between the SMEs and the technical team. Right. So it's your responsibility to provide clarity on the requirements, manage them, ensure that whatever has been committed with the customer is being delivered. Right. So there are some techniques which have come in. Right. So it's not we could have just documented the requirements in plain English. Right. We could just write a big paragraph of this is what the system needs. But English is a language which is very ambiguous. Right. So I write something and different people could interpret it. In fact, any language you take, it would be the same problem. So to reduce these kind of ambiguities and ensure that the technical team can understand them easily. Right. So we there are a few frameworks which would allow that. Right. So it's more graphical. Right. So easily understandable, right, and ensures that the requirements are completely captured, right. So it provides a framework which ensures that each and every requirement required for the system is captured as part of that framework, right. So primarily, I would say you have 3 types: structured analysis, object-oriented analysis, agile, and some miscellaneous techniques, right. So these are 4 categories, I would say, in which you can document your requirements. We don't use structured anymore, which is data flow diagrams and all. Object-oriented analysis is based on UML and use cases. Agile uses user stories, and there are multiple other techniques like your wireframes and then your mind maps. So depending on the context, you can use them. Right? So we learn all those techniques when we talk about requirement analysis. Right? a significant part of your time goes into these two. So these are the main activities. Now, before you get into actually the requirements, there would be a planning phase wherein project manager would create a end-to-end project plan, right? Now, obviously, the project manager won't have good understanding about each and every task that needs to be done. So he obviously depends on the leads. As a business analyst, you would provide details onto the requirements. As a QA guy or a technical lead, those leads would provide for their respect. So while the project manager owns the end-to-end responsibility and consolidates and prepares an integrated plan, you provide the inputs for your requirements plan. Right? So how do you prepare prepare a plan for your activities, right? So depending on the scope, what is a plan, right? And how do you provide the inputs for a overall project plan, right? How does the final project plan look like? Not only this, you'll also ensure that a lot of frameworks are baseline here. Something like a scope management. How do you manage scope for the project? How do you manage changes coming into the requirements? How do you manage the risks? All this is covered as part of your requirement analysis. Right? Then, once the system requirements are documented, the BRD or business requirements document is prepared, then the technical team takes over from there. They design and develop the system, and finally, it needs to be tested. Right? So your solution assessment and validation talks about the various stages of testing. Like what is a first stage is be the unit testing, then you would be doing a integration system testing, and then you're doing a user acceptance testing. Right? Where is it that you need to contribute? So primarily it would be your coordination with the customers and then analyzing of the defects is what you would cover. But we'll also cover how to prepare a test case, how to execute it, right? So the complete end-to-end process, how to plan for testing also. So basically we'll cover this in detail, right? So I would say these are the four main roles. Apart from this, you would manage the communications of the project, right? So not too a complicated topic, right? So maybe we could cover this in less than an hour, right? So basically it tells how do you plan for your communication, identify the information needs of the team, and ensure the communication is ongoing, right? The last one, or rather this is the first step of the project, is enterprise analysis. This is the most complex topic, I would say. In fact, it's getting into a different type of role called as an enterprise architect, right? So people with a business analyst experience, at least in the initial few years, won't get into these activities, right? So there are even certifications like TOGAF and all that for enterprise architects or for these kind of. So what they do basically is they identify the projects, right, and build a business case for it and ensure that it fits into the business cycle. So the current system landscape, it fits into that. So that's a role of an enterprise architect or enterprise analysis. So I'll give you an overview about it. We are not going to cover it because that in itself is a big course, right? So yeah. I think you guys are clear that this is for an IT business analyst because the term business analyst is used across industries, right? Now, when I say IT business analyst, even any industry you take, you'll be able to implement an IT system in that industry. It could be in banking, it could be in healthcare, it could be in retail, it could be any industry. But if you are implementing in technology or system, then this will help you achieve that or do that. Okay. Now, right. So the course again, like I said, is aligned to these 6 knowledge areas. So we'll cover that. And then before going into the course, most of the people who generally join this course don't really have an IT background or they're completely new to IT. So I spent a couple of sessions at least to ensure that you understand how things work in the IT industry. What is the typical SDLC life cycle, right? So software development life cycle. What are the various phases? Where do you contribute? What are the other various roles? What do they contribute in the project? right? All those details we'll learn in those initial few sessions, right? Part of the planning you'll understand. So I think I've covered this a little bit. So we'll just skim through that. Planning, you'll provide inputs for the planning. Then you'll understand the frameworks, right? Illustration models. There are 10 models. Everything would be through a case study here, so that you can actually try to identify your or validate your understanding of the topic, right? Then you would have your requirement analysis and design. So primarily like 3 main methods and then any other techniques, right? Then you have communication requirements, requirements communication, a small session. We have the solution assessment and validation where we learn about testing. And enterprise analysis, how do we identify projects and then build a business case. So enterprise analysis is basically what constitutes these activities is, if you look at any organization, they are constrained for, for budgets, right? So no organization would have enough money to take up all the projects, right? So they usually have some budget and they have to identify what is the best they can do with it, right? Now, let's take a organization, right? Now, let's say you have a retail unit. Let's pick up Walmart, right? So even though Walmart has loads of cash, it still is constrained. It can take up only a minimum number of projects, right? Now, where should it invest money? Should it invest maybe in analytics or maybe in some new upcoming areas like mobile technologies, maybe prepare an app, or should it transform its overall infrastructure and then move on to the cloud, right? So if we don't know, right, so which one would give you the maximum return? So somebody needs to actually look out what is it that the company is doing, right? Which one would be the most beneficial for the company, and then depending on the company's strategy, and then build a business case for it, saying that it costs you $1 million, but if you implement this, you're going to gain maybe a return on investment of 20% or 30% over the next 3-4 years, right? So that activities constitutes your enterprise analysis. I hope that gave you a
yes.
Yeah. Now again, see, so this is a specialized role, I would say. Though IIBA tries to push this into a business analyst role, usually this is very this is the high end work of a business analyst, I would say, right? So maybe once you get into very senior kind of business analyst roles, or once you have gained a good understanding about the industry, what is it that the business want, and you have a good understanding about the technology as well, that's where you get into this role. So I would say it would be a future aspirational role rather than current role, right? Yeah. So again, like I mentioned, the audience is specifically people who don't have background to a business analyst role, right? So it could be freshers, it could be people experienced in other industries, or even techies who want to move into a business analyst role, right? So by now it would have been obvious to you that whatever we are doing, there's nothing technical which is required. All you need is some set of skills new skills which you need to acquire for understanding requirements, planning for requirements, and do I need some technical skills? It's not required. Okay. Yeah. So I was thinking of giving an introduction about my experience, right? So yeah, I have close to 10 years of experience. I'm a computer science engineer and then did an MBA. Been in this industry for 10 years now. A significant part of it was in a business analyst role. Right now, I handle some business development roles. Right, so I don't do business analysis more because after a point you want to move out of this, right? So it's because for multiple factors. You have your own career aspirations, right? So again, the other roles like your project management or business development consulting pay you a lot more compared to a business analyst, right? So you tend to move into those roles, right? So that's what is the future career path for a business analyst as well, right? So I've been teaching for the past 3 years anyway, right? And I'm so course is well matured. We comprehensively cover all the topics. Now, when I started, there was no agile, right? So I keep updating it now. Based on the industry requirements, I keep updating because I am still in the industry. I do, understand what is required. And being in a business development role, that gives me a little more insights because I get to know what is it that the companies are looking out for, right? So, yeah, so the complete training material and everything is well organized. I'll just can share it to you once the course starts, right? Right. I think that's what I had to cover. Any specific questions, I would be more than glad to take up. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Can I ask a question?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
If else we are planning to work as a business analyst as an initial, like a beginner. So, what is the basic knowledge we need to have to be a business analyst?
Okay. Now, this is what you need to know: how to plan for your requirements, how to understand requirements, how to document your requirement, how to ensure communication, right? And how to test the systems. And maybe, I wouldn't say you would need the enterprise analysis at this stage, at least if you're the initial stages. Maybe 3-4 years you won't be doing that at least.
Oh, right? Okay. But now, about business analyst, like do we need to have any SQL knowledge or any database knowledge or any data warehousing knowledge? Like we need to
like
go
I said, so there are specific people for your designing your system and developing it. Right? So there would be technical architects, there would be developers who are there for doing that job. Right? Now our job as a business analyst is clearly carved out. So we need to get into the requirements, get the BRD prepared, the business requirements document, and maybe we need to help in the testing phase. Right? So
when we create a report, so we have a predefined things in that.
Right. So maybe if let's take that requirement, right? You're preparing a report. So what is the layout of the report? What data points are required, or where the data would come in? So you would need some basic understanding about how data is stored, right? So, but that doesn't require any technical knowledge. Okay. You would need your data modeling, which is logical data modeling. So it's independent of your technology. It could be done in say SQL Server, it could be done in Oracle, it could be done in DB, right? But all of them would have a data model, or which we call it also as an ER model, entity relationship model. If you understand that, you can do it, right? So mostly it's analysis skills what we require, right? So you need to be having good analysis skills, and you should have understood all of these topics, right? If I ask you, create a user story, right? You should be able to do that. You should understand what a user story is, how do you capture your requirement in it. Or if you're using an UML based, I would say,
as a beginner, I don't need to know any depth of technical knowledge. Is that so?
Even as an experienced business analyst, you're not expected to know any technical knowledge.
Yeah, because for example, sir, like you are a computer student, you were working as a business analyst, like for.
I've never coded in my last 10 years. I would say I've never written a single program.
Oh, okay, that's my main question. Like yes. Every person might not come from a computer background; they might be a different background and planning to work here as a.
Yeah. It's just that it places me in a better position because I understand a bit of technology as well. But again, you understand what happens in a college and what happens in the industry. It is completely different, right? So you need to have that practical knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. So, like I said, I don't assume that you have any prior knowledge, or even for getting into a business analyst, you don't require anything, right? So no technical knowledge is required. Right. Even now, I don't understand how programs are written or how they are designed. Right. So it's not my job to know. right? So I just need to ensure that, the requirements are clearly captured in a business requirements document. And it's the technical team's responsibility to convert them into the programs. And once the programs are prepared, then maybe, I'll test, validate whether all the requirements what were done is coming out as part of the actual system. So that's how it is.
So, sir, can you just briefly tell me, like, what is the architecture for this? So, as a business analyst, can you just give me the architecture of this, sir? Like, what exactly happens? Like, what exactly is our role in this?
Right. I think, if you look at this slide.
So, it says, like, and you need to verify solutions meet the requirements.
Right. So, maybe we can take this as a reference point and then see. So, though I have covered this in detail. Right. Okay. So, see, this is where your enterprise analysis happens. Right. So, you identify projects, get budgets allocated for it. So once budgets are allocated, then the planning happens, right? So requirements planning would happen here, okay? Then you would requirements elicitation, requirements documentation, right? So we have learned that there are those 6 knowledge areas, right? So a lot of it happen, a lot of your time would be spent in phase 2, wherein you would help plan for the requirements. You would understand the requirements and you would document it. So the final deliverable coming out of it is your BRD. Okay. Now that covers 4 of your knowledge areas, right? Communication is a throughout, right? So it starts right from phase 1 till phase 7. You have to ensure that the requirements are communicated properly, right? So that's one of your charts. Then during phase 5 is where your solution assessment and validation happens, right? I would say, so this is where you as a business analyst would come. Phase 2 and phase 5, right? Phase 3 is mostly the technical architect who would design the system, right? So there would be all these senior guys who understand how to design, whether it's I hope this clarified it, right? So, you are doing your specific role, so there is no technical knowledge which is required. I hope that clarifies. Any other questions?
So what exactly we do in this is like we have to plan the requirement and we need to document the requirement and all. Are these all predefined, sir? Like we need to define them. Like when we create a report, for example, in SQL we have forms and reports, right? So they are predefined. So in the same way for the business analyst, is the reports predefined and we need to create a report and just run the report, or we need to build everything?
No, you're not developing anything. You're just ensuring that the requirement is clearly captured, right? If maybe,
so when we run the report, if we have any issues, like how exactly we know, like the issue is with the tool or is with the development?
Now see, you are ensuring that the requirement is captured. For example, I'll take some examples and then like there is a customer registration process. You as an organization wants to develop some system. As part of that, let's say first step is you are registering your customer, right? Now, how does the screen look like? What all data do you capture about the customer, right? Are there any validations you need to perform, right? So what all type of customers are there? So this is some kind of data you need to capture from the SME, right? So you need to understand when I am creating a screen or functionality for customer registration, what are all the possible things I need to take care of, right? So that forms your requirement, right? Now this can be implemented in maybe in Java or .NET or whatever it is, right? So that's the headache of your technical team, which is addressed in phase 3 and 4. Okay, so your job is very clear. You just have to document it in a Word document, right? So it will be finally the deliverable from you as a business analyst would be a Word document clearly telling that this is the business requirement. So this is the functionality the system should have. Okay. Now, at the end of the day, maybe if you want to generate a report saying how many customers were generated for that particular day, registered for that day, that could be one of the requirements, right? If you want to place an order, how do you place an order? right? So what all details do you capture? What all validations you perform, right? All those would be part of your requirements. Okay, so you are not going into any technology or tool. It's not required. All you need to do is you need to understand the requirement and document it in a way such that the technical team can understand, right? So those techniques we have, we clearly identified, right? So there would be primarily structured analysis, which was using data flows and ER diagrams. Object orientation diagram uses UML, which is use cases, and then you have class diagrams, sequence diagrams, and all. Agile uses user stories, and there could be other techniques like your mind maps, process modeling, using flowcharts, swim lanes, right? So this is how you would capture your requirement. So your job is very clear, right? So your deliverables coming from you is mostly a document. Okay? So the technical team need to worry about how to convert. Now, finally, once the system is developed, you would test it whether whatever you have required, whatever you have documented, is being met by the system, right? So let's say you've captured the requirements for customer registration, right? So the technical team would develop that functionality or feature. After that, you would be part of that validation team who would ensure that whether the system is working or not. Okay. Did that clarify your question, or you have something else which you're looking out for?
I have a doubt actually. I wanted to know whether CPAP exam is a must if you have to do a business analysis course.
Not required. See, CBAP is taken by people who have work experience. So even if you want to take, you will not be able to take because you need to be a professionally working as a business analyst to take that certification. It's similar to the PMP, right? So unless you have worked on that role, you will not be able to take a PMP certificate, right? So the project management certificate. So CBAP also works on the similar lines. So they expect you to work for some years as a business analyst, and then you take the certification, right? So people generally don't ask, and again, see, it's always a desired. It's desired to have that certification. So not many organizations say that you should have CBAP certification compulsory. So it's not mandatory. I would say it's good to have kind of thing. Maybe it increases your chances of clearing. Right?
Okay. And I see if you want to enter into a business analyst role, they mention that you need to have experience, minimum 3 to 4 years of experience as a business analyst. Like I do have experience, but not as a business analyst. So how important does it? Like how can you just enter without having an experience? I mean, if you just want to enter into that line. So I just wanted to know about this thing.
See, one way is anyway, you have to ensure that you're writing all this stuff in your resume, that you've completed a course in this and it's done this process. Right? Some people also change their experience to depict a business analyst experience. If you worked in some organization, they would say, I've handled these couple of projects, right? And show that they have some kind of experience. So that's another way people generally go about it, right? So again, what is your background? I mean, what's your work experience in? And
yeah, I have actually done MBA in finance, and after that I have worked for operations at investment banking SG. And
so that's a good profile because a lot of roles would actually be business analyst roles would be in this banking and financial services industry because the processes and all are a lot complex. So the way you should project it is the way you should project it is you should say that you have the domain understanding, right? So you understand the banking domain, so you can put your resume like that, right? So it's not just the business analysis skills. I also understand the domain, right? So that will be in a well-placed position that you understand both, the business part of it as well as your business analysis skills. So it will be more like a functional consultant role. right? So that's how you should project.
Projected.
Okay.
Okay.
And
So
in banking industry, I think it's easier for you to convert, right? So
conversion.
and
Okay.
yeah.
So basically, business analyst is there in every area is what you have told in the earlier thing.
Yes. Every
So
industry.
you mean to say, yeah, in every industry. So in banking, it is its value or its prominence is more compared to any other industry, or how was it like?
I would say yes, because see, one thing is the processes and all are complex, right? If you talk about, you're talking about something like, let's say, your derivatives or how does your trading happen, right? How do you place a trade order and all that? It's a lot complex activity, right? So the SMEs cannot clearly tell the requirement. But if it's a simple thing, right? Let's say you're placing an order in a retail company, right? So it's quite simple, right? So when how does a web application work, right? So you go select your stuff, what you want to buy, move it to a shopping cart, and then place an order, right? But if you want to place an order for a let's say a derivatives kind of product, like you want to buy a put option, right? Now it's not so easy, right? So you need to have that specific knowledge how it works, right? So that's where you tend to go for people who understands both a little bit of business as well as who have this good business analysis skills, who can convert that requirement into a requirement specification.
Okay, okay. So this course, which is handled by BigClasses, is for people who don't want to take this exam, like the exam on IABA, but who are freshers, is it? I mean, who are looking into the career as a business analyst.
Yeah. So who want to get into this? Yes, who want to get into a business analyst role? We offer this course. Now, again, if you want to take the certification, like I said, you need to have some work experience. So, again, if you are looking for certification exams, we won't have to cover it in depth. But now what we cover is functionally or fundamentally all those concepts are clearly captured. So, you'll have a very good understanding about how things work in the industry. And so we are spending time in ensuring that you don't understand anything, and then I'll talk about a lot of things which will give you insights into how things work, right? Now, if I am actually taking this course for a CBAP certification, maybe all these are not required because, software development life cycle.
Okay, these are not required.
Right. So I assume that people who have coming into this course don't really have any business analyst experience. So we give an industry overview as well.
So basically, you are saying that this course is only for the beginners, and this wouldn't help for people who want to take the exam on the CBAP and stuff like that.
Not like that, but a lot of it would be redundant for them. They know a little bit of what I'm teaching here, right?
Okay.
The rest anyway, advanced topics are covered, but some things, if you have worked, you would have already learned about it. Not a bit.
Correct. Okay. So both are covered over here, but you're saying that it wouldn't be in depth to what level the exam is required.
It would be because I'm not focusing from the exam point of view. All the topics, like I said, it's aligned to the the 6 knowledge areas what are covered, right? So as part of the training material, you'll also get a business analyst book of knowledge, right? So the guide what they provide for this exam, right?
Okay.
So you can compare that and then check what all topics are we covering, are we good with it and all.
So as part of the course, you'll also be giving a real-time kind of a project also?
Yes. See,
so that we get a hang of what exactly happens.
I get that. So for each of the topics what we're covering, at the end of it would be a case study, right? So like after the planning is completed, there will be a case study. So we'll learn. I'll take some of my previous examples. Actually, one example of where it's a lot more complicated. And then we'll try to understand in that kind of situation, what would we do, right? So if you are in that kind of project, how do you handle it? Right? So for each of the topics, for some topics like your analysis and design, I take some simpler example, right? So for example, like a customer registration or placing an order, or maybe withdrawing cash from an ATM. Simpler examples which all we can relate, right? Now, if I take something like a complicated one like a credit risk, right? So it becomes difficult to understand the requirement itself. How can you focus in documenting it, right? So that's where I pick up some simpler examples wherever, right? And ensure that conceptually you understand what you're doing.
Okay. Okay.
So I have one final question, sir. Why you have like a crystal reporting, a desktop reporting, and a web eye? Like, is this divided into different kinds, or can you just give an overview about that?
See, again, that would be more specific for a reporting kind of role, and you are not going to prepare any report. You are just going to tell them what is it that the report should contain. Maybe you also give a layout of this is how the report should look like, right? So the person who is actually creating it, maybe it could be in Crystal reports or it could be in Jasper, whatever technology it is, it's the technical team's responsibility to develop.
Okay.
All right. So the rules are clearly defined. You as a business analyst are not going to design and create the reports, right? So those people would be different. All you need to understand is what data points needs to come in that report, what should be the layout like, what validations you should perform. So these are some of the things you as a business analyst would capture the requirement. Okay. Now,
what do you mean by a business intelligence, sir?
Business intelligence is a different topic, right? So it's basically you're looking at a lot. See, it comes under the purview of the analytics. Now, every organization has loads of data now. So what they do is they would pick up all this data and try to make sense of it. Okay. Now, if you take a bank, right? So there would be multiple transactions in it, right? So over the period of last 5 years, if you pick up the data, it's huge. What they do, they will take it up all and then put it into a bigger database. We call that as a data warehouse, right? Now, even further, we have this big data now, which is bigger than a data warehouse, right? So the intention of this is not to store transactions and then your daily transaction processing system, but to analyze this data and then make some sense out of it. So that's where your big data as well as data warehouses come in, right? So first you baseline that into a data warehouse. So all the data would be dumped into it, and then you would run some analytics onto it, which will help understand any patterns you see in the data. Like let's say a bank wants to understand if somebody is holding a credit card, can I sell him something else, right? Or is there a probability of this guy defaulting, right? So what are the patterns in it, right? So this is the kind of intelligence you generally perform. So there are some, again, statistics-based models. There are some, say, heuristics-based patterns. There are multiple ways in which you can do that, but that's a specialized course, right? So it could be a different course for a business intelligence, right? So I think people generally get confused between business analysis and business intelligence. So it's a different stream altogether. You need to have good statistics background or at least some technical background so that you can retrieve that data. So the major two kinds of roles are, somebody who can maintain that warehouse and pull out data as required. And somebody else, other role is the guy who would tell what data needs to be pulled out of, how the model works, right? So that's more like a business intelligence kind of tools, and it's different from a business analyst. So it won't be part of the business analyst role. It's a different role. I hope that clarified your question.